Neighbors Getting It Done in Western New York. We are a all-volunteer, non-paid citizens action group that is nonpartisan, which is why we have this kind of town hall. We don't do fundraising, so there's no fundraising tonight at this. We don't do money at all, actually, so everything is donated to us. I just want to make it clear because Mr. Langworthy has disparaged us in the past, but we aren't related to Antifa. Don't even know what the hell Antifa is, other than I am anti-fascist. Other than that, no. So it's an Italian cookie. So tonight, what I want to do is have people get to know, both candidates from both perspectives. And I'd like, can I get a show of hands, like how many are registered Democrats? Okay, and how many are registered Republicans? Yay, thank you. And independents? Okay, that's great. So, a little smattering of everything, predominantly Democrats, which is kind of what we, what happens. I want to make sure everybody knows the ground rules, that it's, we're going to be civil. It's a discussion. We want to have a discussion about, can we get better representation than what we have now from Congress?
Would be hard.
Well, but I just want to make sure we hear everybody and what their perspective is, and if you have questions, hopefully you let me know. So I'm going to actually ask the first question before I let them do their little hi, I'm who I am. And I want you to tell me what a moderate, you're a moderate Republican. This is Jim King. He's a moderate Republican. What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
To me, it means the traditional Republican values, which is a fair marketplace, safe communities, stable future, in the context of fiscal responsibility. We still got some technical.
Sorry about that. The mic issue has been an issue.
Fiscal responsibility, stable relationships with our neighbors, law and order, rule of law, and we can go down a long way in terms of all those implications. But it's basically the way it used to be for Republicans. Eisenhower, right up through. Through our previous, before Trump.
Okay. And now I'm going to ask Aaron what he thinks, what it means to be a Democrat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as the Republican Party has undergone its evolution over the last 10 years, that's been called into question a little bit, right? Because the Democratic Party has grown to be a larger and larger tent of folks that are not okay with what's going on in Washington. But I think maybe the center of what it means to be a Democrat is to be centered on democracy itself, on representative government that represents the people rather than simply the elites, through a process of voting. And I think it's also critical, if we're going to talk about representing all the people, to have an emphasis on equal rights for everyone. That's been a big emphasis for the Democratic Party, at least over the last 75, 80 years. So if we're talking about equal rights for women, equal rights for minorities, equal rights for LGBTQ people, these are things that are central to democratic identity.
And now, Jim, I'd like you to motivated you.
So, I'm Jim King. What's motivating me is that our current congressman is not representing us. I mean, that's me and you in terms of the us. I'll use the big word. He's a sycophant of our current mean-spirited, vindictive president, who's step by step and action by action trying to be a dictator, and is working his way towards that. And the courts are way too slow in terms of fixing that. Congress is doing nothing. In fact, Langworthy is an enabler. He doesn't, in terms of those Republican values I was talking about, and things like a fair marketplace, he applauds the tariffs. That's not a fair marketplace. He voted for a $3 trillion increase in our national debt. That's a gift to the rich people, and very rich people, not just very rich people. And it's on the backs of the poor and the disadvantaged. In terms of law and order, he applauds those badge-wearing thugs who are terrorizing neighborhoods out in Minneapolis.
Jim, I think you do better without the mic.
Yeah.
All right. My wife's not sitting in the back with the sign that says "Speak Up," so I'm going to try to.
It's off.
Yeah, I'll do that for a minute or two, and then I'll start to mumble, and then but you can, somebody just right in the back, just raise their hand or something. We'll see what we can do. Tariffs, debt, the Democrat hoax that Trump talks about in terms of affordability. He's endorsing it. I mean, it's just, everything's wrong. And you guys can look at your bills. You know what your grocery bills are like and the electricity bills like. It's going up. It's not a hoax. In terms of our future, he just in his last newsletter, he just thought that acquiring Greenland, he said it, acquiring Greenland would be a good idea. That's not a stable future. We can go through the list, but he's not fiscally responsible. He's not doing what a Republican should be doing, and that's why I think I'd be a better congressman.
And Aaron, who are you?
Well, I'm Aaron Gies. I'm a Democratic candidate for Congress in New York 23. I'll just say as an aside that tomorrow is my birthday, and I'm going to be 45, and that makes me about the same age as Mr. Langworthy. So I grew up, and you can do the math and find out this is in the 80s and 90s, believing that we ought to treat other people the way we want to be treated, and that a good life was achievable if you worked hard, if you were responsible, and if you had shared responsibility in your community, right? So it's not just for yourself. The great leaders that I looked up to, they followed that golden rule. So they connected directly with the people, and they used their power to serve our interests rather than special interests. But over the years, as I've gotten older, I've watched government give more and more tax breaks and special favors to the largest companies with the promise that those companies will then turn around and make life better for us. They rigged the system. And that rigged system has failed. Whether we're Democrats or Republicans or independents, I think we probably agree about that. And so that failed system is now crushing working families. It has hollowed out our towns. It has driven up the cost of groceries, driven up the cost of health care, and made opportunity unavailable even to those of us that work the hardest. So I'm running for Congress because this rigged system is crushing working families, everyday Americans, rural communities. And I'm running to build a future where the government works and where everyone can afford a good life.
All right, I'm going to open up, ask people who have written down that they want to ask a question. I'm just going to call your name, and if you would ask the question, that would be great. Marita Florini.
Hi, guys. I want to hear your opinions on the current healthcare situation and hopefully what you would do to fix it.
Okay. You want to get your first?
Jim, go ahead.
It's terrible. I've been a paramedic since 2002. I graduated from IBM in 2000. That's when I retired, okay? I've been an EMT since 1969, okay? We're providing that stuff. I get to see it. I get to see really up close what our medical system is like in terms of people who have and people who have not. And it's terrible. I've got some squad members out there that, you know, that they're shaking their head in the same place. It's wrong. What we've got going in America is wrong, especially when you can just, you know, go a couple hundred miles north of us and see what Canada's like, or visit England or Ireland or most of the EU countries, and say there are much better ways to do this. And I'm not saying that I think the government should be running it, but something like Medicare for all makes sense. You know, but it should be a single payer system with other ways. There are other ways to get there, but that's what we got to figure out how to do.
I'm sure that you are all probably familiar with the horrors. So a cut to Medicare and Medicaid between $800 billion and $1 trillion in the OBBBA. It was passed this summer that Langworthy voted for. Cuts to ACA subsidies that Democrats shut down the government over rather than vote for, that Langworthy voted for again and again. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, he made a procedural vote to stop ACA subsidies from being extended. And of course, the upshot of that is not just that individual ones of us will see our healthcare costs skyrocket, right? My wife provides insurance to her employees, and our premiums are up year over year 21%, and that's just a down payment on what's to come. But also, it's not just about us as individuals, right? Something I talk about in this campaign a lot is the common good. How some of us having something good leads to others having something good, and when something is taken away that belongs to the common good, everybody suffers. And that thing that's being taken away is our healthcare system, right? So if lots of us can no longer afford to pay for care, guess what? The hospital doesn't have enough revenue. And we've seen studies that say that up to 8 of our 12 hospitals in the district could close as a result of these cuts that Langworthy has championed and that he rose in enthusiastic support of back in June. I was shocked to see that floor speech. So what should we do? This won't be the last time you hear me say that I agree with Jim. I don't think we should be fighting for scraps in terms of ACA subsidies that don't work terribly well. I think that we need universal health care in this country. And here is why. I believe that we need a healthcare system that is stable, not brittle like this one, that is accessible even if you live in a rural area, and is affordable even if you're poor. And I know that most of my neighbors, even the ones who support our president, believe that. Back in Olean in the summer, we had the rural area medical clinic, 200 volunteers delivering $200,000 worth of health care in a long weekend, doing things like, you know, cleaning people's teeth, right? Because whether you're a Republican or Democrat or an independent, most of us don't believe that you should have to die of a preventable disease just because you can't afford health care or you live far from the hospital. I'm not saying it won't be hard or that the details will be easy to figure out, but I think we can get there, and I think that's what we need to push for. And honestly, I think that this disruption is going to give us the opportunity to try something new, something better.
You have any follow-up, Jim?
I did, but I thought we're too much in agreement. It's got to change. There are a lot of ways of doing it besides Medicare for all, but that's the goal, is to everyone getting quality health care, no matter where you live, and no matter what your income is.
Kathleen, I had a question come in on the live feed. I don't know if
Okay,
you.
sure, go
Yeah.
for it.
Okay, this was from Jimmy Russell, and he asks, how do we get rid of systemic racism in Congress?
How do we get rid of systemic racism in Congress? I'm gonna go to you first, Aaron.
Okay. Jimmy, thank you for your question. I'm not sure if you're thinking about members of Congress who exhibit racism or racist systems that still exist in the law. The solutions are really different there, but if we're talking about racist structures that still exist in the law, an important way that comes out is the way voting rights have been restricted in this country, especially in southern states, it's been a long-term problem, but we've seen a new wave of it over the last decade. And I support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
It's not like running for I mean, at some point you kind of go, I think that's the thing.
Where'd you go?
But these things are
I'm right next to one of those. Right next to you, Hey, I'm gonna head out now. I got a pretty good amount of stuff, so I really appreciate you letting me come in and hang out, be a fly on the wall.
We appreciate any color.
and the coverage is nice.
I'll be on.
Main Street USA, people.
All right. Well,
Ask me a
at
question
this
about
point,
that.
I do kind of want to open up the floor a little bit, but I would like to start with Irina. So let's do that, because you had a lot to say, I understood.
Not a lot to say, a lot to ask.
Okay.
I had a question for each of you. Do you get to decide who goes first? They're different questions.
No, go ahead, you can
Okay, so my-
ask of a specific person, that's fine.
My first question is for Jim. How do you reconcile what the Republican Party has become versus what it used to be? And what I mean by that is the Republican Party you described at the beginning no longer exists. So how would you be an effective representative as part of a party that openly, publicly mocks and ridicules the type of Republican that you aspire to be?
Okay, did everybody hear that?
Boy, that's a tough question.
Well, there's a presumption in the question, and that is that, well, her question is, how do I reconcile the Republican of yesterday with the Republicans of today?
And how would you
And the supposition is that they're very different. And the answer is, yeah, the leadership is very different. I'm not sure that the moderate Republicans are extinct. And that's who I'm trying to reach. And I'm getting feedback that says, yeah, we're out there, we're still out there. Are they now in the minority in the party? Yeah, but the party's fractured. It's a lot like the Democrats, you know. I'm not from any organized party. I'm a Democrat. Right? That's the Republicans are emulating that activity right now, and I'm saying, lead by example. Here I am. If I get elected, I'm going to rally the troops in terms of the other moderates that are still out there. And if I can't find them, we'll see if we can grow them.
Thank you. I have my next question for Aaron. As I'm sure both of you know, NY-23 is massive. In a district so large, how do you engage people who have completely checked out of politics because they're not part of a politically convenient or reliable voting group?
Yeah, thanks, Irina. So you have to go where they are. And when I say you, I mean hopefully lots of you have to go where they are. I have and will. This is our 71st public event since I launched the campaign back last summer. I have been to, town picnics and parades and festivals, and I will hit every one of those that fits on the schedule this summer. And the point there is not to find the 2 people that agree with me that are selling, soy candles, but to talk to everybody who has just come there for a good time and doesn't necessarily want to hear from me. And we need to get our message out to them. Another place to find folks like that is campuses. I didn't say it up front, but I'm a professor. So I do know how to talk to college students, and I'm looking forward to getting out there and doing that this semester. But I can't do all this alone, right? So there's some good news that 42% of the electorate lives in Erie County. They're a little bit more concentrated there, a little bit more squeezed together. So it's easier to knock on doors there. We'll be doing a lot of that. But we'll also be trying to build a volunteer base so that folks in Tioga County also hear about us, and the Niagara and a little bit of Schuyler that we have, and all of these odds and ends of this enormous rural district. So that's the plan.
Quick follow-up. What do your students think of you running for office?
Okay, so I can't really talk about it in the classroom because
They must know, though.
Yeah, they found out. They're supportive. Even some of the ones who I know don't agree with me politically, and so that means a lot to me. And I'm looking forward to getting back to St. Bonaventure as a candidate, and just having a whole different conversation about the common good with my students.
You have one?
Yeah, when we talk about the shortage of nurses in Owego areas, I do know that Tompkins Cortland Community College has opened up a program for nurses that they can go for free. And I don't know if other states do this, but I'm pretty sure New York State does. Do you know anything about that at all?
I'm not familiar with that specific program.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good thing to be doing right now.
But
One would assume it's state funded, right?
But that's in line with what I think the government should be doing.
Yes.
Right.
Educating our healthcare providers.
I'm gonna throw it out there. When I came through, I came through the National Health Service Corps back in the day when we had a National Health Service Corps. And that was precisely for this stuff. And it actually worked pretty well in terms of, it did send you to some pretty remote areas, and I learned a lot by doing that. But that, I would love to see something like that come back around, in terms of just getting people to say, and about 40% of the physicians who went to their area actually wound up staying beyond however many years they were required to stay. So that's not bad, so. Okay, yeah.
But I look at that as a real issue, because my understanding that the organization that provides funding for college education has just changed the status of nurses, teachers, and architects. I mean, so that they are unable to get the amount of money it takes for them to go through a 4-year program. And talk about, we're gonna support your communities. This administration is not at all. So are you gonna be able to overcome that?
Probably.
That's what I wanna know. How are you gonna overcome?
Me personally?
Well, I mean, if you're elected, how are you going to overcome that? Because everyone is just laying down and going, yes, boss.
Well, and the answer to that question, because it was asked earlier.
I missed it, I'm sorry.
No, it was in private conversation. And the answer to the question is, how am I, Jim King, how am I gonna do something about it? And the answer is, one vote at a time and by example. And the only way it's very hard to convince people, but it's a lot easier to show people how to move ahead. And that's what I'd like to do.
When you get the lightning bolt from Trump, how are you gonna do that?
You see, my intention is to be a one-term congressman. That lightning bolt is only threatening the people who think that's their career. That's not my career. Blackmail is not going to be easy in terms of my job in Congress. Just so you guys know, I'm 81 years old. Okay, I'm a short timer. If I get elected, I'm hoping to groom somebody who's like me.
I have a slightly different answer to that question, if I may. If I get elected, we have flipped Congress.
True.
And that means, and likely the Senate. And that means that we can push back hard on a bunch of this stuff. And those measures are not popular. They're not popular in red states. People don't think that we should be, firing nurses from the education system so that our healthcare system goes down the tubes. And so we can push back hard on the president on that. So real accountability for the president, legislation that makes life better for people from Congress immediately. Obviously, the executive is a long-term problem, right? But there are things that we can do on day one that I think would start to make things better. Sorry.
That's okay.
Already.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Everyone has this fantasy that if we do manage to wrestle control from Republicans, that there might be this little red pill that could flip all of the horrible legislation that's happened.
Blue pill.
Blue pill, sorry. I was thinking red is poison pill. But anyways, is that a fantasy? Is it something that you really can, because there's so very many rules and legislation where they've just corrupted our system. It's like a cancer with all of these tentacles out, with all of these different laws, or are they? See, I'm wondering what's real and what's not real here, because we assume that all of these have really passed into law. I was just talking about this. I'm trying to figure out if they passed, what was it, the Senate, did they pass that or didn't they pass that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to find out what really did they make into law? And is it possible to have that where you can magically go and wipe out a lot of that bad legislation? Or will it have to go painstakingly one piece of legislation?
I'm going to make Jim answer first because I know the answer.
Well,
It's not magic.
there is no magic for sure. But most of what Trump has done, and your question is what the disaster that he's created. Most of it is by executive order. It's not law.
I believe that the best way to push against bad laws is with better laws, and so that's one way that I would push back.
How about you, Jim?
I don't have anything better to say. I mean, the John Lewis law should have been approved. We should have had it, but it's not there, and we got to get there.
All right, Mary Schwartz.
Right here.
Oh, forgot you were doing that.
So my question is, do you believe that Trump should be held accountable for treason, for levying war against the United States, and will you commit to pushing an impeachment, however it's called, for treason so that he can be convicted and removed?
Do you want both of them to answer it?
Yes,
or just,
please.
okay. Do you have a preference who goes first?
Doesn't matter.
All right, go ahead, Aaron.
Okay. So, Democrats hum and haw about this, right? Because of tactics. But we take an oath to the Constitution, right? To swear to defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Do we think that Trump has violated the Constitution?
Yes.
Yes.
I do too. So I think he should be held accountable for that. What the charge is, whether it's treason or something else, is going to depend on the details. But I think that it's part and parcel of taking that oath that I would pursue accountability for the president and anyone else who has broken their oath to the Constitution.
We agree on way too many things, but I don't think he's committed treason yet. I think he's come close. In the strict definition of treason, which is very, very narrow. Should he be impeached? Yes, that's a different question. And he's broken not only laws, but his constitutional responsibilities. He's failed in his oath, absolutely. So is Nick Langworthy, for that matter.
Yeah, but impeached and removed, that's the big.
Well,
impeached and convicted.
If I may, Mary, we're only running for the House, and as you know, the House sends the articles and the Senate decides whether to convict and remove. And so, Congress has to act together for accountability to happen. I will say, I'm sorry, Nick Langworthy is on the Oversight Committee. They are supposed to conduct oversight of the executive branch. Okay? If we flip Congress, all of a sudden there is real oversight of the executive branch with teeth, and that really does change things.
Julia Ferencik?
Hi. So my question is, or my biggest concern is, Citizens United. I don't think anything's gonna change until corporations are stopped from dumping loads of money to whatever candidate is gonna help them out and help whatever corporation out. And I wanna know how both of you feel about Citizens United, and would that be something that you would like to work on when you get there?
You start, Jim.
Absolutely. That was a very bad decision. Corporations are entities of the state. They are not people. The state, that is New York State or the federal government, whoever's issuing their authority, someone's authority or some group of people to act as a corporation, are giving up a little tiny bit of their sovereignty. But that doesn't make them a person. And money in politics is it's a cancer. It's driving, it's driving all of us. I mean, we're out fundraising because we can't do campaigns without having some money. It's the way it works. And it turns out all too often the persons or the groups or whoever's running with the most, who has the most money has the most sway because they can talk to the most people, and that's just not. It's no longer a campaign of ideas and ideals. It becomes a campaign of who's got the most money.
Julie, I would support an amendment to reverse Citizens United. There are proposed legislative solutions too. This is tougher because they could be challenged by the court, but depending, I would also be supportive of that. Another way to attack the influence of money in politics is to limit the ways in which members of Congress and of the executive and judicial branches can be involved in markets. So how can they benefit from their office, right? Many of them are benefiting a lot in ways that look very fishy to normal people. I'm supportive of the Trust in Congress Act, which stops members of Congress from day trading. They could still have a retirement fund, right, a mutual fund, but no individual stocks. So if you get an inside tip, it's not okay for you and your buddies to get rich, as indeed the president is doing right now.
I'm going to ask a little bit more about Citizens United and in general the Supreme Court and decisions like Citizens United, and what can Congress do?
there are two things that Congress is supposed to be doing, is legislating, and the other is proposing amendments to the Constitution. And as Aaron was saying, the courts are obliged to interpret legislation, so you have to, write legislation that's very, very explicit in terms of interpretation by the courts. That's one of the things we can do. In terms of amendments to the Constitution, we have to be very, very careful about that, but there are several that we ought to be looking at, and one of them has to do with who is a person.
Do you have anything more to say in terms of what you think that Congress can do regarding the justice system? And particularly the Supreme Court. I mean, that's what we were talking about, the Supreme Court.
There ought to be term limits. I'm not necessarily in favor of age limits for public officials. I am in favor of term limits for public officials. And I think they should probably apply to the court as well. They should be long, but they should exist. People should know that they don't have forever to get their agenda done.
Kathleen, whenever, will you just check in with me occasionally about, I have
All right,
some
you have
questions
another
coming
question?
through. Yeah, I have two actually, but I don't want to get in the way of the folks who submitted questions, so if you're ready for
Go
one.
ahead.
Okay. On that same line, Lisa asked, what is y'all's position on campaign financing reforms?
So a similar question, what is the position on campaign finance? And so I'll start with you, Jim.
Yeah, yes, we need it.
What would you do? What would you like to see in place?
Well, first off, limit the ability of corporations to fund campaigns. That's got to be the first and probably the lowest hanging fruit. Beyond that, probably requirements for a very open register of how campaigns are being financed. It seems those two things, I think,
So transparency.
a big, but more transparent than they are now. We have some, we have a very little transparency now. We do have some,
Yes.
but not very much.
All right. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, so it's particularly the super PACs, the Citizens United groups, that are able to operate with lots of opacity and hide their donors. And the conventional campaign finance system is there's a lot of reporting, you guys. Filling out a lot of paperwork over here. If you've had to write your employer on a form because you gave to a campaign, then you know what I'm talking about. But the problem is regular folks like us can't necessarily fund congressional campaigns that cost millions of dollars, right? And yet we need to be represented by good representation in Congress. So what can we do about that? Two things. The first is public financing, which they tried to do a long time ago, and we could try again. Lots of states do it for their local elections. It works pretty good, but it's politically tough because it looks like you're spending a lot of money, right? The other thing that we can do, and this is one of my favorite pro-democratic reforms that's a little out there, is to increase the size of Congress. So go back to the districts that we had not back to the districts, but back to the district sizes that we had before they were increased in 1929. And then you would have districts that looked more like 250,000 people than 800,000 as we have now. So it would triple the size of Congress and then some. But what would you end up with? You would end up with much smaller districts where the representatives represent fewer people, and you would therefore not need to run as huge and expensive a campaign in terms of outreach as you do now. If you're in a big city like Chicago or Los Angeles, New York, you're talking about a neighborhood that your congressperson represents. And wouldn't that lead to more FaceTime, more contact, more better representative government, right? You're gonna have to make the Capitol building bigger, right? The chamber's gotta grow. But we demolished the east wing without even a building permit, so I feel like we could probably figure that out. We'll be fine.
Just as a quick follow-up, you can look at what people are obliged to report. It's onerous, like, for sure. Last I looked, which was a couple of weeks ago, Nick Langworthy had $1.7 million to run the primary campaign. It's just $1.7 million.
And where did he get that money?
Well, you can go look. Okay. He changed the world the day he became president, and he started signing executive orders. Illegal activity, but it takes a long time for the courts to say that was wrong.
So that would have to be addressed by the courts then
No. The next generation, whether Republicans continue to hold, and it's unlikely, hold Congress, at least in terms of the House, for sure. The answer, I'm wandering off here. I don't want to.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
make my question be that way too.
Right, but the answer is, the next president can sign exactly the countermanding orders, and the courts can eventually catch up in terms of the damage done. The fact is, though, the damage has been done, and we're never going to be the same, never ever, and we're going to have to adjust.
Before I get to, I'm gonna get to, but there was a young man asked me a question about Greenland and weapons that we have made here that have gone to NATO, and a concern about using those very same weapons against our own people. So I would like both of you to just talk a little bit about Greenland and what, as congressmen, you could do. And let's start, Aaron. Like, if you were in Congress right now, what would you be doing about Greenland issue?
Yeah, so I would be pushing for a War Powers Act that restricts the president's ability to act in Greenland. And some members of Congress are doing that right now, and they should. They should be, lying down in front of the tanks, because we must not attack our allies.
Jim?
Yep.
One of the things that's happened is that our credibility, the credibility of the United States has been torn asunder. It's probably damaged beyond immediate repair. We're not, even the next president, as good as he might be, is going to have a whole lot of trouble convincing people to believe whatever is said by the President of the United States. And the only way that gets fixed is by Congress actually stepping up to do their job. And you can just read Article 1 of the Constitution, or read the Constitution. And it says very clearly, Congress has the war powers, and Congress should act on those and keep those war powers.
Okay.
The question was about what weapons?
Well, our weapon, it was because, NATO. We're worried about NATO.
Actually, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say the question moved beyond where I was, so please.
Oh, okay.
I have a few questions, if that's okay. The first is a little bit of a follow-up to Mr. Aaron here. We've been talking here a lot about the follow-up of the current mess, what happens after, and if we flip, if we do this, if we do that, if we flip everything to the opposing side. One of my biggest complaints is I'm calling Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand day after day after day, getting nothing but answering machine after answering machine after answering machine, watching them all lay down like dead fish. How are we so confident that if we flip things, if we do take control in the aftermath, that there will be that fire for accountability. There will be the needed excitement and follow through to try to hold people accountable, to try to fix what can be fixed and work on making things better where they can't be.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I think this is probably a question about the Democratic leadership more than anything else, right?
Mostly, yes.
Yeah. So, in landslide elections, the American people send a message to Washington that's usually quite clear. It's clear what they want. And the leadership will then have the choice of whether or not they want to listen to the American people. And if they don't want to listen to the American people, there will probably be the votes to change the leadership. I suspect that they will. I think that they will probably stand up and be helpful and stop flopping around like fish. But I mean, you're right. It's been argued, in public ad nauseum. The Democrats having a problem settling on a message and endlessly humming and hawing and sending angry letters.
Wow.
I think we're going to find it. I think we're going to get there.
You had a question about Social Security?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I'm like, I want to answer this question.
So, I'm asking on behalf of somebody who prefers not to speak up and ask. The concern was, we understood that billionaires, millionaires have a cap on Social Security. So, for example, by January, they're done paying into the Social Security accounts. There was an observation made, though, that if we expect that they were to continue paying into Social Security, for, at the amount that we would like them to, right, because they're billionaires and millionaires, that when they retire, there would be an extreme amount of money going back to them. So, how would that work? Any idea?
You cap yourself, how much you get. I mean, that's
Go ahead, Jim.
There already is a
Jim is
cap.
closer to Social Security.
I mean,
Or is. I'm sure he's
on
collecting his Social
I'm collecting my Social Security. Right. And there's a cap. Doesn't matter how much money you make. You only get, there's a top amount that Social Security pays out today. And I have advocated for a very, very long time that there should be no cap on the contribution side. The whole idea of Social Security, which happens, Republicans hate, in the FDR's days, they hated the whole idea, but the fact is, it's part of America now, and it should be. The whole idea was, it's not insurance. It's not insurance. But everybody tries to compare it to insurance, some sort of an annuity, or some sort of, paid up insurance plan. It's not that. It's the government taking care of old people. That's what it's all about. Letting people retire, letting younger workers move up in the workplace. That's what it's all about. And there's no reason why we shouldn't raise the cap on wages and income to pay for Social Security. People are, been complaining about the fact that Social Security is going to become out of money in the near future, and that keeps moving. But the fact is, it doesn't have to. And one way to fix it is remove the cap. Remove the cap on income.
On income, but on the retirement side,
Keep it.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, I agree with Jim. And if you did raise the cap on contributions, you could probably raise the income for everybody a little bit, because we all know that Social Security doesn't really meet people's expenses now.
It's already, it's indexed already.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the Social Security question here. I mean, right now you have a maximum cap at, I don't know what it is, it's something like 185, 190,000 or something like that. And you can raise that, and I'd be all in favor of raising it to 5 million or 10 million or whatever. And you would get much more money into the Social Security account. But there's another thing that has to be done to sort of fix the problem, get to the problem that you're talking about. Your monthly benefit is calculated in levels, which is in terms of how much you contributed for your 20 highest years, and they calculate it, but it's like something like 80% of the first 1,000, and then it's 70% of the next, and it ends with like 25% of the maximum earnings. So the millionaires who are contributing all this money to the Social Security account, their maximum benefit is going to be 25%.
No, there's a maximum.
There's a
You can't get any
The
more.
maximum dollar amount is determined by the next level.
There's a hard number.
That maximum is a hard number. You're right that it's staggered by how much,
45, something like that.
how much you contributed in your earning years. But
I know when I was doing my calculations 10 years ago,
right.
that the maximum number was like 25, 24.
Right, but
something per
there's
month.
a
And
max.
now it's much higher than that because they have raised the, at maximum level, so I'm not, I think it's determined by that contribution.
I believe that the maximum that you can get for Social Security is still something like $4,500. It's not a lot of money. And that's it. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how much you contributed before.
But it keeps raising. So,
Oh, yeah.
No.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
it was like 50 10 years ago.
But it's in.
It raises on the basis of inflation.
Yeah, but in any case, we all agree it needs to be capped.
We're off subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just I think one of the things that you're trying to understand is when we have an inflationary economy and wages keep going up, and the way we calculate Social Security, people, the longer you retire, the less your payment is going to look vis-a-vis newer retirees, because there's that natural escalation. It's also a formula that discriminates against women.
No, you can't. You can't find half of it. We wish we could,
We can find, you can.
but it's a lot of PAC money, but.
Yeah, there's PAC money in there, and most of it is not coming from the 23rd district.
It's not small donors. Was it a follow-up? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to know, was Nick Langworthy invited to this?
He was.
Okay, and second part of it is, would you consider impeaching the Supreme Court members who have been caught pocketing money or being influenced by bribes?
Yeah.
I certainly would.
Potentially. The problem with the court, of course, is that there isn't a legally binding code of ethics for the members of the court, because the founders just assumed that they would be ethical, and so they adopt a code of ethics among themselves, which is non-binding. I'd be certainly in favor of a binding code of ethics.
Don Florini, you had a question?
No, I'll pass.
I got one.
I have a couple more on here. Fran? Sarah Fran?
Me?
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't know I'm on
You
here.
said about Fran Van Heusen.
That's me.
Healthcare.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you don't, that's okay.
Yeah, well, with the healthcare, if the ACA is debunked, and they do cut all this money out of Medicare and Medicaid, isn't that gonna affect all persons that pay premiums for health insurance? I mean, everybody's prices are gonna go way up. I don't think people are thinking that way. They don't. I think they need to be aware, you know, it isn't affecting me.
I talked with a woman the other day, her premiums doubled for her and her husband. $600 was what she used to pay for, and she would had a $3,000 deductible that she'd have to reach before the health insurance kicked in. Now it's $1,200 per month and a $3,000 deductible.
That's not really her question.
But that's what's gonna happen. That's what you're gonna start seeing, are increasing premiums, and in the Medicare realm, sorry guys, in the Medicare realm, you're gonna start seeing decreasing services.
So in that vein, I'm gonna ask another question. Do you have a sense of how you can get from where we are, what do you have to do to get from where we are to a system that works? Like, of course, there's a lot of negotiation. Of course, it's gonna be really difficult. But if you could see, you know, what could you do to start making an effect? How long do you think that would take? Let's start with you. Give just whatever thoughts you have had about how would I do this?
How would I
go
do
about
this?
it?
Well, I think the first step would be to make policies uniform and require that of insurance carriers.
So make insurance policies a uniform.
Uniform in terms of coverage. No picking and choosing. You know, these are the things that you have to cover. And that's a start in terms of leveling the playing field.
Okay. Do you have a nugget that
Sure.
really bugs you?
Well, another thing to try is the way some other countries have been able to do this is to take bites of it by states achieving universal coverage first, and then expanding on the programs put together by states. And I think that Governor Hochul's attempt to do this in New York is to be applauded, and maybe something that we could build on.
You were first, so do you have a question about a follow-up on the healthcare?
I think most of you are aware of what was just suggested in New York State. The New York Health Act has been in the the state legislature. It has passed the legislature a couple times and is in the legislature now. So if you haven't heard about it, look it up online, New York Health Act. That's to make New York State have a single-payer health care system.
Did you have something about healthcare?
Well, it was just a follow-up to what you were saying. They all sound like sound ideas, ways to get to where we need to be. What do you do in the meantime? Do you support continuation of the ACA subsidies until Congress can actually get itself together and legislate? Or do we just kind of tread water until we come up with a better plan?
It's a Band-Aid. Yeah, we gotta put something on the sore.
Yes, I agree. The alternative, which is the road we're heading down now, is it will not only lead to a lot of human suffering, which is avoidable, but it also is a threat to the system as a whole. So we have to do something to keep things going while we work to fix it. Yes.
Did you have anybody else?
Yeah, and actually this was a perfect time for this. The question was, how do we attract doctors to rural areas?
How do we attract doctors to rural areas was the question. I'm a retired physician in a rural area, so that's why they're pointing at me.
Yes.
There's definitely problems, right? So, and there's structural problems in the system, and what's happening now ain't helping.
No, I mean, yeah. What Kathleen's thinking of, so here are some things that are happening right now. Cuts to medical research by the administration, which have mostly stuck, as opposed to a lot of the DOGE cuts, which went away, have caused organizations like the University of Buffalo to say, hey, we're not taking any new medical students this year. No class of 4 years from now, because we don't have the funding, right? So we already were in a place where we weren't training enough physicians and also not enough nurses or physician's assistants to meet the demand, and now we're training way fewer people than we need to meet the demand. The way that we have traditionally met this demand in the last few decades in rural areas is through the use of H-1B visas, right? That's why your doctor might be Indian, right? Because highly educated folks have a deal where they can come over here and for a reasonable fee and for a pretty onerous retraining regime, they can enter practice in the United States and serve. Well, Trump just raised the H-1B visa fee to $100,000. Now, there's been a lot of noise about how that's going to affect tech, because we hire programmers that way as well. But to me, a much larger problem is what it's going to do to rural healthcare, which there hasn't been much noise about. So, okay, here are some fixes. Give back the cancer research funding. Take the H-1B fees back down to something reasonable. But then we need to look at how we can encourage more young people to go into the medical field. Lots of parts of our economy are shrinking right now. One of the only parts that still seems to be growing is healthcare. But can you afford to go into healthcare? Right? Can you afford the loans? Right? They're becoming more and more unaffordable as interest rates rise and the caps are lowered by the administration. I think that we need to look at things like loan forgiveness for nurses, physicians that agree to work in an area of need.
That was a huge topic before. And Jim, do you have any other thoughts on?
The United States has, this is the United States government, has two maritime academies to train merchant sailors. There are 4 states that also have maritime academies. There's no reason why we can't have federal and state-sponsored medical schools the same way that can do the same stuff.
Okay, I am thirsty, so, well, I think at this point, we're gonna take a little break. You guys can schmooze a little bit with the candidates, get a snack. Please sign up to help them. They both have some volunteer information, and if you can, get out there and help in any way, it's appreciated by both of them, I know that. I have some information about my programs in the back in terms of what Good Neighbors does. If you're interested in any of that, just, let me know, sign it up there. And maybe, 10, 15 minutes, so we'll just have a little break, and then we'll come back and just open it up to the floor to answer.
Yeah, before you get up and go, we failed.
Restrooms are over there.
Yeah, restrooms are through that door, under the sign over there, 2 emergency exits if you need them.
Oh.
Safety first. All right. That's the firemen in there.
We'll be back in a little bit.
Who tend to be in and out of the market more. So there's a lot of issues with how we calculate Social Security that need to be examined.
We had more questions, yes? Do you have more than one?
Yes.
Well, I would like somebody else to get to, we'll come back.
Yep, that's fine.
Fran had a question about,
Well,
there you are. I was like, looking over there.
No, there's another Fran over there. Got me mixed up. She spoke up ago. I have a friend that has been complaining about her electric bill. She's a single woman, and she has arthritis really bad. She's got a small ranch, and the first month or two it was like $500 for a NYSEG, and this month is $1,100. She has no idea what to do. She's scared not to pay it. She doesn't know what to do. And she has been calling them. I don't know what she could do about it. Is this going to be a trend that's going to go on? Is it?
Well, I do have something to say about it. The biggest issue in terms of electric bills, in terms of why they're going up so much and so quickly. Her bill is a little different in terms of because we're in a heating season, but the biggest reason that electricity in general is costing more is because the transmission costs are being passed on. And when I talk about transmission, that's the part of your bill that says delivery charge, okay? And transmission comes in 2 pieces. It comes in the long haul stuff. You just see the high tension wires, and that's the big generators, Niagara Falls, others passing electricity along to the rest of the world. And then the rest of it is the short haul stuff, that's NYSEG, delivering it to your home, to the building, to the business, to whatever. Both of those, we're reaching end of life in terms of design life for the stuff that's coming to your home and for a lot of the transmission stuff, for the high tension wires. That is becoming very expensive to replace. And there's some price gouging going on in terms of the replacements.
Yeah, that's some price gouging.
And that's gotta get fixed.
Is that something Congress can act on, or is that just a local?
That's, the answer is yes and no. A lot of the regulations, rightly so, are done in the states. New York State has a fairly sophisticated regulation system. Not all the states do, but it's not good enough. They gotta get a little tougher in terms of where's the money coming from and who's actually paying in the end. If somebody's building a new AI data center someplace and they're not paying for the infrastructure to support it, that's a problem, because you are, if they're not.
I understand there's one being pushed for in Lansing.
Right, the TerraWolf project.
Right.
Play, actually.
So-
It's Microsoft.
But that's what's showing up in your bill. That's the biggest part of the increases. The generation stuff, in terms of whether solar or wind or nuclear or hydro,
Well, what recourse
those
would
are
she
different
take?
problems.
Because she cannot afford this. She's called and nobody, either, there's nobody who's working there, nobody's answering.
I'm sure Nick
she's not-
Langworthy would help her.
Yeah.
Just call, he'll get your passport and fix your electric bill.
So Fran, that really is, it should be part of the answer. So Josh Riley next door has made a big issue out of this in the press and elsewhere. And there's a group of state legislators who are publicly demanding that there be an audit of the utilities. Langworthy would join them if he really cared about our energy costs, but he just wants to promote natural gas because natural gas gives him a lot of money. It's not really because he cares about how high our electric bill is.
He just comes up with excuses and blames Hochul.
He loves to blame Hochul, yes.
He really does.
Yes.
In all of his town halls, that's what he does.
Yes. That's a popular strategy.
Does everybody know Nick's history in terms of, all right, so we won't have to go into that. But he has not left the state.
Never had a real job.
Well, that's the history. He's never had a job other than politics. I won't say that's not real. But he started out in college as an activist, okay? Became a county, actually he went off to Congress as an aide, came back and ran Erie County, then moved on to the state.
New York State Republican Committee.
Right. So, but always as a politician.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, oh, I'll come back to you, yeah.
This one's for my brother who couldn't be here tonight due to work. What are your stances on the regulation of the internet, specifically regarding user privacy? I know that we've had many bills throughout the years trying to ban this, ban that, SOPA, COPPA, what have you. And of course, there's what's going on in the UK right now where people are supposedly being thrown in jail for certain types of violations. Would you both be interested in protecting privacy and anonymity when people are using the internet?
So I've stated publicly that the right to privacy has been broadly eroded in the age of the internet. Most of us have a reasonable expectation of privacy when we're just going about our business throughout our day, but that's very much not the case We may not have a surveillance state yet the way China does, but we have a surveillance corporate sector that's watching us all the time, whatever the user end agreements might say. And so yes, I'd be supportive of much stronger laws around privacy on the internet and elsewhere.
I think we should expect a level of privacy similar to what we have with our telephones.
But we don't.
That's what we should expect, and if you've gotta get to legislation that gets us there, then, you know, your telephone is not private either. But it has certain safeguards, and I think we should be at least as good on the internet.
You're talking about like landlines used to be where your phone could be tapped by the FBI, but they had to have a reason?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. I hear you.
As a quick little follow-up to that, what are your stances on AI and AI generation? Should that be regulated, or is that a good thing to have running rampant?
I think we better look at it really hard.
Soon.
I don't know the answer to that question, okay? I really don't, because there's a great deal of benefit we can see, and there's a great deal of harm that we can see, and what's in between, and how do we minimize the harm and maximize the good? I don't know the answer there, but we got to figure it out.
Hang on. Did you have a question in the back?
I did. Jim, thank you for your answer about the electric cost. I did notice that over the last 7 years, our root cost per kilowatt hour went from 5.7 cents to 17.5 cents. So there's a sourcing of the energy as well.
Yes.
But the other part is, what about holding Doge accountable? They came in, stole all of our information and sold it or gave it to the wealthy guys who are running the media and all these industries. How do we hold them accountable as a congressperson? And by the way, I appreciate the civil discourse that you two have had. Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. This is so how do you hold them accountable? I wish we could vote for both. Let's get another guy out of here. But how would you hold them accountable? That's the question.
My friend Bruce Kraft back there was saying,
Roll out the train.
yeah, we'll let the train go by.
Might be a while.
That's the sound of home in a
Yes. Well, Aaron, you can talk loud enough. You want to take it first? Or go back to the AI question? I don't think you got to talk over you.
All right.
Speak loud.
It's how you enforce the law. We have laws that deal with this. The question is, how do you enforce it? Do you have the equivalent of Hitler's brown shirts, thugs, and with badges that break into people's houses and drag them out onto the street, or do you do it with a subpoena and do it, you know, in a civil discourse, in a civil manner? And that's how you hold them accountable. We've got laws that deal with that question. We just have to enforce them.
I'm gonna say, if you could, along the same vein, a lot of this is now international though. I mean, our stuff has been sold to Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and you know, there's the big AI stuff that Elon put over in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Do you
Well,
think there's
you
any
just made the
recourse?
problem much more complicated.
I did.
Yes.
I don't think it was her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well done, Mary. Yes, so accountability begins with flipping Congress. So at that point, the Oversight Committee can investigate what happened with Doge, because right now we don't even have a unified narrative around that the American people have seen. And so I think that's a very important thing to do, but ultimately you will need the Department of Justice to go after the folks that did these things. I mean, assuming that crimes were committed, and I assume that crimes were committed. In terms of the international fallout, we're going to have to do our best to protect ourselves in terms of cybersecurity from the fallout, like the toothpaste is out of the tube. And it may affect our relationship with Qatar going forward and other countries that benefited from this.
Fran, you had a question?
Yeah, back to the healthcare. I feel like healthcare is a big issue. I'm concerned, I'm seeing all these big corporations buying up all the hospitals and they're just getting very large. I think it would be a good idea if we tell these big corporations, okay, because of you're this size or that size in your area, you have to provide certain number of rural clinics because of the size of your corporation.
What do you think?
So there's a move in New York State to establish minimum staffing requirements for medical facilities. We have a chronic problem, especially in nursing homes, of nursing homes understaffing and then simply pocketing the proceeds while their residents suffer. And that happens more broadly as well. So that's a way that we might think about attacking that problem. So if you're going to be the only provider for this area, you need to provide some kind of floor of care. Another way to think about it is antitrust.
Yeah, picking up on that. When a monopoly is given by the state or acquires itself as a monopoly by acquiring other businesses and excluding others, government has a responsibility to regulate that monopoly so that it is not hurting anybody. It doesn't mean they can't make money, but I'm not a big fan of regulation, but that's where regulations are important. When we have monopolies, government is obliged to regulate.
We were just talking about that with the power grid.
Right.
It's the same
Yeah.
deal. Yep.
This is for both candidates. I think maybe everyone in the room agrees that we're at a really polarized time in politics. So on the campaign trail, you're going to meet people who agree with you on like maybe 2 things out of 10. What is your message to them, and how do you ask for their vote in a current climate where agreeing 100%, it's all or nothing, seems to be the only type of support candidates seem to get? So I don't care who goes first, just curious your approaches.
You know, I haven't thought about the question. I'll give something off the top of my head here, and that is find out what's polarizing them. Yeah, engage in conversation. Find, and I'm willing to say that we can not agree. We can agree to not agree on things in a civil way. But you're going to have to figure out who you want to vote for, because there's very few people who are going to be able to say that you're going to be satisfied with everything.
Those 2 issues matter, whatever they are. If they belong to the common good, then I'm interested in engaging. And Jim's right, the first thing to do is find out what they are. And you have to do that by listening. So I always try to begin there, figure out what somebody's concerns are. I will say that we have a problem in the Democratic Party with purity testing everyone who wants to be part of our group. And look, some of the people who are going to help us flip Congress and return this country to a more sane direction are not nice people. They have bad opinions that we don't like, but they're going to help us, and we should let them.
If I can follow up on that, if I may. I'm interested in how you see yourselves negotiating. Granted, if we flip Congress, you may not be, you may have more Democrats with you, but you're still gonna have to negotiate with maybe some MAGA Republicans and maybe some moderate Republicans. And, Jim, if you win Congress, you're gonna be up against some MAGA Republicans who are gonna look at you and scoff. So how are you gonna handle that?
There was 2 parts to your question. One is how do you negotiate, and the other is how do you deal with with people that don't want to talk to you.
How do you negotiate with people you don't want to talk to?
You can't. You can't, unless two parties will engage and will actually establish, what their needs are and what their wants are and what the exchange has to be to get there. It's not going to happen. So with extremists, if they don't want to talk to you, you can't talk with them. There's no in between in that. I mean, either they're going to talk or they're not. And doesn't mean I can't in the vernacular of the Christians. There's no reason I can't love them. Okay, but it doesn't mean I have to embrace them.
Okay, that'll be the last question. It's gonna come from Facebook.
Okay, well, I'm surprised this one hasn't come up yet. So there's actually two questions here, but if I have to just pick one, then this is a big one that hasn't been talked about. I'm curious what their stance is on ICE agreements with county sheriffs and local village PDs are, and what actions they would take to prevent Minnesota from happening here.
ICE agreements with local police, and what can we do to prevent it from happening here?
The answer is you can't. It's a local issue. And those people are elected. The county sheriffs in this state are elected. And if the electorate wants that to happen, or if that sheriff thinks that that's what their people want, that's what they're going to get.
There have been some agreements that have been overturned recently. Niagara has overturned their agreement, and Bucks County, PA just overturned theirs. Now, Bucks County overturned theirs precisely because they flipped their sheriff's department. So this is one way in which local elections really matter. And I know that many of you are on the committee or engaged, and I really appreciate that. It's important work.
I'm going to disagree with both of these guys and say that what Congress can do is talk about it. Like, get out there and say, this shall not pass, and this is my district, and I don't like it. So, be a soapbox.
All right,
person.
let me take the other side of that. In terms of one of the things that Republicans and I stand for is states' rights. That is all of the stuff that is not given to the federal government by the Constitution belongs to the states. And this is a state's issue. It involves how much the state wants to, or local government wants to cooperate with the federal government. But that's a local decision, and local people make that.
Wait a minute, hold on.
I want to respond to Jim.
Right.
Hold on.
I want to respond to Jim because Jim and I finally found something that we disagree about. This is great. All right.
Okay, I'm gonna widen my camera angle.
So,
I want to respond to this one because this is very much on my. Joey, let him. No, just that, because you're mentioning local, it's absolutely right. Just because our legislators aren't doing anything now doesn't mean that we can't do something. The sheriff is under the county auspices. And I've actually, don't have a strategy yet, but I'm actually starting to build some knowledge in and around how we might put a challenge out here in the county for exactly that. So it's local, but it can be done. It doesn't have to be top down.
Yeah.
It can be done.
members of Congress can and should be making a lot of noise about these agreements and about ICE tactics in general. And I will tell you that even if you're just running for Congress, and even if you're just a small grassroots campaign in a rural district, people are looking to hear from us about this. When I did a video responding to the death of Renee Good, I said at the end, to sheriffs who are considering cooperating with ICE, why would you consider inviting this kind of violence into our communities? And that video did like 10, 15 times what our videos usually do, not because it was particularly great, but because people are really concerned about this. And so this is a place to make noise, and protest is part of the reason that Niagara reversed its agreement. So, do we have to do this in a legal way and, allow local control to stand? Yes, but we should try to change what they're doing.
All right, see, this is the first element of negotiation. We agree on the principle. We gotta fix ICE. There's no question there.
Okay, the last thing I want to do, Don, go ahead and stand up and tell people what you want.
Hi folks, my name is Don Baisley and I'm starting a podcast in a couple of weeks. And the goal is to flip the House seat in District 23. But basically why I'm here tonight, mainly I'm trying to elevate voices of independent people and even Republicans that may be disgruntled to where things are. So I'm asking that, I'm out here fishing looking for interviews. So before anybody goes, I would love it if you come. I'll stay over here in the corner by the flags, so you can see U.S. flags in the backdrop. But I'm looking to get some interviews. The program I'm going to launch in February is called I'm Not Running for Congress, because I was going to run. And we've got a much better candidate than Aaron Gies on the Democrat side. My wife wouldn't let me run, so I decided I'm going to run a podcast. That way I can say whatever I want. Because I'm not running, that's the beauty of it, right? So anyway, I'm looking to collect interviews at this point. And you can look me up online in terms of on Facebook, if you search for I'm Not Running for Congress. And there's a YouTube page also. And again, I'm just getting started, but the program is going to start in first week of February. I think Aaron will be the first guest. I think Jim will be the second guest. Josh Riley might be number 3. But basically, the whole goal is trying to establish a platform for civil discourse and no arguing. And I'm trying to, again, elevate the voices of what I consider to be average, decent people that don't have a voice in America. That's my point. So if anyone's willing to do a short interview, I'll be right over here. Please don't let me go home to fishing with me. So thank you much.
Okay. I also have a podcast. Don is going to be way better at it. But it's different, and mine is a lot more about also trying to get a better congressman. That is true, that's part of what it is, but it's about many other things if you look over at the bulletin boards. So if you have stories that you can tell about your health care, about the insurance, like what Marita was just saying, those things will help us. We're going to try to do some rallies in the spring at all of the hospitals that are in trouble. I know Tioga County doesn't have a hospital, but that, you know, that's the goal, and to get media attention for it. So it's a whole thing, but we need people's stories, you know. So that would be helpful if you also contact me. It's very different than what Don is doing, which will be a lot more professional. So okay, I think that wraps it up. We're at 8:30, so I appreciate everybody coming out, and I learned stuff, so I think it's all good.
Good neighbors bought cookies and stuff like that, you know, don't let it go to waste.
Yeah, no, eat it, please. No, I don't.
Aaron, would you be the teacher?